Okay.
Yeah, it's working.
Good. Yeah. So, so as I said, the only color wheel that you're going to do, the only file that you're going to do in RGB is the RGB color wheel, and I'll be demonstrating that in a minute. The color value correlation chart is not 11 values, it's 9 values, but otherwise we're going to be mixing all of the scales in 11 steps. So there's a middle step that shows the exact even mixture of both colors or of both values. In the instance of like white to black in a grayscale, you would see the number 6 value as being the middle value. So I choose 11 steps to do for that reason. I think I've already told you that at some point in the class earlier. So then we're going to do complementary mixing scales, and we'll use the 3 primaries. I'm going to show you the examples in a minute. We're going to do analogous mixing scales, and you'll use the 3 primaries. So we're back to working in Illustrator, and I actually taught you quite a bit, I think, in the first project where you worked in Illustrator, so you already know some of this, luckily. Yeah. So please use the CMY color wheel for the color value correlation chart and all your scales. In Illustrator, go to File, Document, Color Mode, CMYK color, and you can change it back after you do the RGB color wheel. For the RGB, as I said, in Illustrator, the same thing at the bottom. So these are this is the project sheet, which is already on .ed. Okay, so I'm going to flip through right now the examples that I made. So you can see, it actually is going to take you quite a few hours to do this, particularly if you're not too good in Illustrator, because you're going to have to make guides, and I want it to look good. So these are PDFs, and I was very careful to turn off Illustrator editing capabilities when I saved these, so that you can't, by any chance, just sort of modify the ones that I did. Not that I would think that you would do that, but so let's see here. Whoops. So you could start with the RGB color wheel. Remember in my lecture last time, I said, I'm going to make this better. I said that RGB are the colors of light. And so it's called the additive system because all the colors add up to white. So that's why it's called the additive system. You as photographers and fine artists will be using CMYK to either print with or to make photographs, because we pay attention to what our prints look like. If you're just working on the internet, you might leave things in RGB. I personally don't work in RGB. I told you that I don't mix colors in RGB because I can't get used to it as a painter. I can't quite get used to the fact that, like for instance, red and green make yellow, right? So the primaries in RGB are red, blue, and green, right? So I set up the wheel so that the primaries form a triangle. And actually, I think I'm going to go into my AI files to show you, because those were not the ones I ended up with last night. I'm trying to close all of these. Oh, shoot. The command didn't work. I don't know why. I'm going to go into the AI ones because I think I put PDFs that should be, okay. I don't have the relationships. I modified it last night. Okay, so anyway, here it is again. And this is RGB. I don't know if you can see, Jen said last night that the colors on their screen when we were looking at it now are much better than the colors that we have in the projector in the room. And that is totally true. I mean, these colors look great. So they're looking great on my monitor. They're looking great on my big TV. So can you see how brilliant some of these colors are? They're very almost fluorescent looking. So that's what RGB does. And so here's the color wheel that you're going to make. Now notice, and I put this, you can bring it up from Canvas and copy it there. So you have to go into your Canvas and bring these up in order to do this. So that would be one way, that's one way, because I can't give you handouts. So you're gonna have to go into Canvas and copy these. So maybe print them out or save them to your computer. So they're under this week in Canvas. So for instance, with the RGB color wheel, notice that I actually want you to type in. So you're going to use the type tool, which is over here, the type tool, and you're going to type these numbers in. And so you're going to type the recipes. Now, what do I mean by recipes? Well, I mean the sliders here. So you're going to bring up the color palette, which we did not use in the first project. And you're going to actually mix. So you're first going to construct the wheel. So I'm going to go through that. I'm going to demo it in a minute, okay? I'm going to demo how to construct this wheel. And I put in Canvas a rotate sheet, a sheet again on how to rotate, which I already gave you, but in case you lost it, I put it back on Canvas. So you're just going to use all the files that I have in Canvas to do this. So every single part of this is going to have a recipe. So the orange is going to have a recipe. The yellow is going to have a recipe. Every single color is going to have a recipe. This is RGB. Then I made a chart, and all I did was use the pen tool. Click, 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 click. And what it shows is what they call the triadic relationships. So for the final project and the next project, we're going to explore these color relationships. We're going to do this project, and then we're going to apply all of these color relationships to the next two projects, which is pretty intense because I ask you to do it many times. So you have to understand these relationships. So triadic relationships are 3. So you start with the 3 primaries and draw the triangle and then just keep going. I did not try to rotate, well, I did try to rotate the triangle and it didn't work very well at all. So what you have to do is just draw it again every time. So I drew it with the pen tool. I'm going to demo that in a minute, all right? The next one is the CMY one, and I called it CMY instead of CMYK because I was just mixing the colors. Oh, and with the RGB one.
Hey, John.
Yeah.
Sorry to interrupt. Meg wants to get into the meeting, but she says that you have to let her in.
Correct.
So just to accept her request.
Okay. How did she email you?
Yeah.
Yeah, that was smart. Yeah, I have to figure out a way. There's supposed to be a chime when somebody wants to come back in, but I can't figure out where it is. Yeah, so CMY are these sliders. I didn't show you, I forgot to show you, but RGB is in the same, so you have the sliders and you're going to be mixing the colors. RGB, you just change the whole thing to RGB and you can mix in RGB. So you're actually going to use the recipes that you're going to type in later next to the swatches. So you need to go to, Canvas and get this sheet up because it shows you the model. It's fun. You're mixing all of these colors. And as you can see, the CMY ones are a lot more dull. Whoops. look what I did. That's interesting. I was doing this late at night last night, and I made this one. Whoops, this one. I wanted to make that the stroke 3. Yeah, so this is supposed to be 1. I wanted that to be 1. This is the one. This is the one that shows the primary triadics. So I also, you know how to work in layers now. So you create another layer at the bottom of the layer palette, and you can create this diagram just as we did in InDesign when you made your diagrams. I locked the bottom layer once I'd done everything. I'm going to go through this in a minute and do the whole thing out for you. But, and then I went back in, made another layer, locked the bottom layer, and I made this triadic diagram. So you're watching me right now in real time, as the governor keeps saying, make the diagram again. Then I made PDFs of these and put them up on, you know, Canvas, .ed. So, and then you're going to, I drew guides. And can you all see the guides?
Yeah.
Okay. Well, I drew a lot of guides to help me do this. So basically I was drawing horizontal guides to match up the letters. If you want to make a book of this, you can, and it should look good. With CMY, I pulled in a guide, a vertical guide 1 inch and a horizontal one down 1 inch. And I put all of my titles right at the top in where 1 inch meets 1 inch so that it looks good every time across. Okay, so I'm going to show you the others that you're going to do. And you don't know how to do them yet. I understand that. But some of you know Illustrator, some of you don't. This is the color value correlation chart. What this shows, and I lectured on this last week, sorry, is that every color has a value right out of the tube. In its pure form, every single color has a value. And yeah, so the cool colors generally have darker values. The warm colors start with a little bit lighter value. Yellow is the lightest color. Violet is the darkest color. And it has such a dark color that often you can hardly see it as a contrast. So if you want to make something extremely dark, almost near black, it's violet, right? Red violet is one up from that. So it should look like this. And I drew all of this. It didn't just happen. So this took hours, and it took me hours, and I'm extremely good at Illustrator. So it's going to take you even more hours, right? Okay, so notice there is something peculiar about this color value correlation chart, is that, and this is all done in CMY, not RGB. So the peculiar thing is that everybody thinks because I have you do 11 steps to each scale is that this is going to be 11. And then they're emailing me or talking to me, whatever, and asking why it doesn't all line up. The color value correlation chart is a scientific fact.
As I called you just now, I was out in the world, I was going to walk to Home Depot and buy a little strip of fast scripture.
You might have to mute yourself. Somebody's talking. Yeah. I don't know who it is. Yeah, I can mute everybody. Anyway, so this is a scientific fact, and I can't change it. There's 9 values because that's how they line up to the colors. So, you know, if you're trying to find mid-value colors for some reason, they're in here. But this is something that you see in textbooks. It's not something I can change. When I have you do scales, I use the blend tool, and I think I've already shown you that. And the blend tool, you can do as many steps as you want. But I made this with the blend tool, but this is not something that I can change. So it has to have 9 values here in order for it to work. The next one that I did is gray value scales. And notice that the gray value scales, we start with white and end with black. Now these are 11 steps because that's how I like to do them, your design teacher. And there's always a mid value that you can see. So if I put this into grayscale, and the command for that is edit, it's under edit, and then you go to edit colors, and you can say if you've selected something, edit colors, you have to select it, and then you could say convert to grayscale. Notice that they all look the same. That's because I put the color at the correct place on the gray scale. So every single time CMY, these lower ones are with color. I had to choose which box became the color. And then I made tints and shades, and you have to do it in 2 steps. These lower ones, the lower 3, are actually kind of hard to do because you have to do it in 2 steps. The Illustrator file won't let, the program won't let you do it in 1 step because it doesn't understand that you're going from white to the color and the color to black. So you have to do that in 2 steps. This one, the top one, you can do in 1 step. I'm gonna go backwards now. So Command Z. And if you're going to talk or you're on the phone or something like that, or your dog is making a lot of noise, why don't you mute yourself, okay, so that that doesn't happen. Andrea, do you have a question?
Well, yeah, no, I think I left the hand up, but it was just regarding where you had the PDFs, but you said .ed, so I figured it out. Sorry.
Yeah, you're going to all have to familiarize yourself. I'm going to be putting a ton of stuff on .ed.
Okay.
So you're all going to have to get really, comfortable with that.
I think I got it.
You know, I gave a lot of paper handouts. Now I can't.
Yeah.
So yeah. So so this is what it looks like. And last night when I was doing it, I really wanted the yellow, for instance, to be at step 2 because I wanted to show you the tint, a tint with yellow. But it just didn't work. I mean, when I put it into grayscale, it didn't look right. So yellow is really a light color. All right, I'm gonna show you how to do this when I demo it. The next one that I'm gonna have you do is the complementary blends. And again, when I've been teaching you in InDesign or Illustrator, I always set up a vertical and a horizontal axis. I think for me working in these programs and laying things out, if I have to lay something out in Illustrator or InDesign, it's really convenient to put the horizontal in. It just helps me with, you know, situating everything all the time. I mean, look, when I click on this is I group these, so it becomes an object. So I could see the center point of these all together. Because I grouped them all together. I just drew the cursor around all 3 of them, all 3 blends, and then I grouped them so they became the Illustrator of the program then shows where the center point is, and all I had to do was move it around until, don't group things with the guides visible. Turn off the guides in view in Illustrator when you group things because the guides will group with whatever you're, you know, moving. So you want the guides to be separate because the guides are in the right place on the page and you want to orient your object to the guides. But if you group the guides with the object, then those will move with the object, right? So you want to turn off the guides, group these 3 together, and then you can center it really easily. So guides are under view. Anyway, these are the complementary blends. And interestingly enough, I went from, this is cyan, magenta, and yellow. Okay, cyan, magenta, and yellow. So we're doing this in CMY. So I went from cyan to red. I went from magenta to green and yellow to violet. And notice that every single one of the colors in the middle are exactly the same, because complementaries are all the colors together. Every single time you pick a primary, its complement is going to be a mixture of the other 2 colors. So when you have all the colors together, you get what we call a neutral. So these are neutral colors, And watch what happens when I put it into, when I put the whole thing, this whole page in, I have to select, and I put it into grayscale. These are all the same. So it really doesn't matter. This doesn't matter in grayscale. I shouldn't have really done that. It doesn't really have relevance to this one. What I want you to notice is that these gray neutral colors in the middle are all the same. That's what's important in this. And it's pretty cool. If you, the end, I'm gonna ungroup this. I'm gonna ungroup the three of them. So Illustrator is a really good program to do this in because you can see the color theory really easily. So this would be a blend. I blended these. I'm going to show you how to do it with the blend tool. So in the middle is this neutral, but if you wanted to modify it, if you didn't get a pure neutral in the middle, watch what happens if I use the white selection tool, not the black one, just the white one, and I pick an end color, okay? It selects. With the white selection tool, you can select the end color, and here's the color mixer. I should be in CMY. I'm using, I told you, the only one you're gonna do in RGB is the RGB color wheel. So I'm mixing in CMY, and notice that here, I actually was using the colors of the color wheel that I labeled. So yeah, so this is violet and it's 100, 100. So that's a violet color. And you can change that. If the neutral doesn't look good, you can modify it slightly. And when you modify it, it actually affects the whole blend because the blend right now is an interactive blend that I'm going to teach you to make. Any questions so far? I'd have to scroll down. Let's see if, okay, so nobody has their hand up. Jennifer, I think I'm gonna make you co-administrator, but I haven't quite figured out where to do that. I think it's, yeah, I'll do that later. All right, so the next one that you're gonna do, we're on the complementary one. Finally, you're going to do an analogous scale, which is this one. And you, again, CMY, and you're gonna go to an analogous color, which is two, you can do one or two away from the color. Analogous colors are directly adjacent to the color that you started with. So that's all you're gonna do. There's 6 different files that you're gonna make. This one's analogous, then you're going to do complementary. Then you're going to do, going backwards now, you're gonna do the gray value scales. Notice that there's 3 because CMY, but you're also gonna do a gray scale. And then, you know, and then you're going to go backwards and you're going to do a color value correlation chart. And the color value correlation chart, you may have to adjust slightly. You can't just use the colors of the color wheel, you have to adjust it. I mean, again, I made it. And this, I didn't just use the recipes. You can try that, just use the recipes for the 12 colors of the color wheel. But when I put these into grayscale, they should look like this grayscale. And that's kind of hard, actually. I'm not gonna be being too fussy about that. But if I put these, I selected them and I go to Object, Edit, Colors, and put it into grayscale. See, it isn't perfect. You might have to put a little bit more blue in some of these. You can adjust them slightly to look like the grayscale. And then finally, going backwards, the CMY color wheel and the RGB color wheel, which yeah. So I will start out, I think today you should try to make the 2 color wheels in Illustrator. So if you have a way to follow along with me, fine. Otherwise, if you don't mind, I'm just going to go through it. I'm going to start making it. I might not get all the way, but I'll start. And you can try to work for a while, and I'll have my screen up so you can come back and ask me questions if you need to. So let me make a new document, and I'll start doing this color wheel. So I'm gonna go get the handout, honestly. I have a paper handout. I'm not sure, you could bring it up on, go into .ed and bring it up on your phones or something maybe. Or if you have a printer where you are, you can print it out, but I have to hold something in my hand when I'm doing these recipes. So yeah, I'm gonna do, what do you want me to do? The RGB or the CMYK one?
CMYK.
Okay. Is that Jen?
I have a question. The typeface doesn't matter, correct?
Well, I gave you a handout on typefaces. And as in InDesign, I'd like you to keep to some typefaces that make things look kind of elegant.
Okay, so one
very,
from
very
the...
funky, yeah. Not super funky ones. I prefer not.
It's just I opened the PDF on Adobe Illustrator and it says it can't find the font. So that's the only reason.
Really?
Yeah, I don't know why.
Why don't you try opening it in Acrobat? Because if you open it in Illustrator, I guess it tries to find. Anyway, are you on a PC?
Yes.
That's why it can't. I used Optima, which is my favorite font. Herman Zaff designed it, and it's sort of a combination serifs and sans serif font. So I really love that font. So Optima. So
okay.
it mainly, the problem is that it's not a PC font.
Okay, so just go off the handout. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah, so I'm gonna walk over, just leave my screen for 1 second to start doing a demo so that I can see the recipes, because I can't remember every recipe. I don't have them memorized actually. So I'll do the CMY one, but just hold on, let me go get the handout.
I'm zoning the fuck out.
I think it's fun how I can see everybody's faces if I look. So like, everybody could see I'm in my kitchen.
Oh yeah.
I can only see.
Everybody has their room.
Honestly, I shouldn't be
Stand
doing
back.
this on.
Oh, you're not supposed to be outside. Just kidding.
I have to get a longer cable because I'm on a 6-foot cable, so I have to be like kneeling on my coffee table, and I'm getting kind of sore doing this. But anyway, no, it's okay. I'm pretty limber still. I'm doing yoga just to be able to do this, you know. Anyway, seriously, because I went up to the pharmacy, and everybody looks at you like so. I went up to the pharmacy to try to find a bigger cord so I could do this to my television, because I like looking at my television, and I have to order one off Amazon, but I haven't had time. So now I'm still kneeling in this very yoga-like position on my coffee table in order to do this with you guys. But yeah, so because I want it hooked up to my television because it looks so great. And I really need to figure out how to put your faces all along the top would be a lot better. Let me see if I can do that. That didn't do it at all. That didn't.
Yeah.
Now I only see some of them. Oh. Okay. Well, that didn't work too well, but anyway, I'm trying to, do you all see my little boxes also? Oh, well.
The box of your face?
No, the boxes with your faces on them.
Oh,
Yeah,
no.
4 at a time.
Four at a time. Yeah.
Yeah, we can see a few of them.
5.
I'm on mobile, so if I scroll to the left, I could see everyone.
Really?
Yeah,
I see you, it has an arrow, and the only way I can see everybody is scrolling back and forth. But I would really like to, you know, they should just make the faces get smaller so that I can have everybody. But I can't. So anyway, but it would be okay because, anyway, whatever. I'm just gonna keep going here. So I'm gonna make a new document. And the only way I can do this right now is to demo it. It's better when you are, when you're able to do it with me. So if you figure out how to do that, that's fine. So I made a new document, and can you see what I'm doing here, all of you?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes.
Great. Okay, so the new document, remember to put your measurements into inches so that, okay. So I'm gonna make it landscape orientation and new document, and I'm gonna have it be CMYK color, and my raster effects, I'm just gonna leave it 300 PPI. And you know, you can call it, in this case, it would be your CMY color wheel. Say, and one artboard, because each one is going to be one. I thought that it would be a good idea to do it as 6 different documents, which would be fine, right? We all know how to do, not documents, 6 different artboards.
Yeah.
We know how to do that, right? That makes a lot of sense to do it that way. But then after I did it, right in the middle of it, or right towards the beginning, actually, I did the RGB wheel right after I did the CMY wheel, and I realized that that doesn't work, because I need you to change the whole document to RGB when you do the RGB wheel so that you can see the colors that way. So I, you know, luckily I wasn't too far into this last night when I was doing it. So we can't do it as a one document, because I know some of you are going to think, oh, wow, I could just do this as one document with 6 different artboards. That would be great, except that you can't, because I want you to see the RGB wheel. So, okay, so then, and if any of you know how to do this already and you feel like you really don't need to listen to me, you know, I don't want you to ask questions later though. You might as well watch me and just mellow out and watch me. I know some of you are rearing to do this, but yeah, it's probably better for you just to watch me right now. Okay, so I just lost my control, so I have to go to window. If you use it, and make sure that your control bar is up, and mine for some reason. Okay, and now you're going to go view, show rulers, and so that you have something to pull guides from. So say view, rulers, show rulers, and that will enable you to pull across a ruler at 5.5, it's 11 inches wide, and and then pull one down at 4.25, which is the other axis, so that you have a guide. Okay, now you're gonna draw a circle. And I made the circle about 5 inches, I think. So go to the rectangle tool and draw a circle. If you remember, you go to the ellipse tool and you hold shift. So I started right at the center, but it didn't matter, and I drew a circle. And up on the control bar, you can see how wide you're making this circle. So right now, yeah, it's, it shows here the width and the height, so it's about 5 inches. So that was about what I made it, I think. So you can change, you can go right into here and just make sure it's exactly 5 inches if you're somebody who is as fastidious as I am. So you could say 5 inches, and you know your other one's going to be 5 inches too. So I gave you directions for rotating around a circle, and notice that I have, whoops, Sebastian went out, so he's waiting to be let back in. Hold on, admit. This is really hard for me to keep track of right there. I don't know where to put it on my, okay. So yeah, so I have color swatches. You don't need the color guide. I don't know why I have that up right now. I'll put that away. Color swatches, stroke and gradient. I don't need gradient. So what do you actually need to have up? I would say color swatches, brushes you don't really need up. So, and layers and stroke. So the stroke is only to put a stroke on the circles and the rectangles that you're going to be making. So now I'm going to rotate. I have to start setting up the color wheel, and I'm going to make another little circle and put it at the top of this circle, and hold shift when you do it again. Oh man. So I forgot to, I didn't put a stroke on this, so make sure you put a stroke on it. So I'm going to put a 1-point stroke on this wheel so that I can see it later. And there's the other little circle that I made. With the arrows on the keyboard, I'm going to put it just touching. Remember that? And you can make, you're designing this. So you don't, I don't know how big you want to make this circle, but remember this is a page that's going to print 8.5 by 11. So, you know, you're working with the page that you're going to print if you were to print this. And so I'm going to make it a little bit bigger. I hold shift every time. I'm going to move it over so that it's centered. And, whoops, put a stroke on it. Now, initially I put strokes on these so that I can see them, but later I took it off because it looks a lot better. And notice that my guide moved with my circle. That's because I didn't lock my guide. I guess you should lock your guides. That would help probably. Well, it's still not, maybe put a stroke on that. Oh, you have to have your stroke up, not your fill box when you put a stroke on it. So now it should be, it still didn't. Stroke. There, make sure your stroke in the, here has block in it. In your toolbar right here, make sure that your stroke has block in it. Okay, so now I have to, I noticed that I just moved my guide, so it should be at 5.5. Here's 5. Okay, and you can lock that guide too. Once you have your guides in the right place, you can go view, guides, view, guides. And then lock guides so that they don't move all over the place. And yeah. Okay. So obviously my circle moved over, got to move it back. All right, so it's barely touching the circle. So when you rotate around a circle, if you remember, you go to the rotate tool and you click on the rotate tool and then option click in the middle of the circle. And what you want to have selected is just the object that you put on the circle. It will know that you mean it to rotate around the circle if you click in the center of the circle that you're trying to rotate around. So Option click or Alt click on the PC. And it'll bring up the rotate options. Here's the rotate options. And you type in, we did this in project 1. You type in the 360 degrees of the circle over / how many times you want to rotate it around. There are 12 colors on each color wheel, the RGB color wheel and the CMY color wheel. So I'm going to put 12 because that's how many times I want it to go around. Do not push OK, push copy, and it'll copy it. And then do Command D or Control D.
Hey, Ms. Joan.
Yeah?
And I was trying to join into the class.
Thank you. Sorry. Yeah, that's terrible that I need to do that chime thing. Where is it? Ugh. How did you know that? Oh, well. There is a, Oh, here it is. Play, enter, exit, chime.
I'm sorry, did you say Command C or Command Z for the copying and pasting?
I said Command, hi. I said Command D, not C or Z. D as in dog.
Got it, thank you.
Not Command R as in rat. Somebody was saying they just adopted 2 rats. No, dog. That was my weird sense of humor. Anyway, okay, anyway. So there, now we have every single color wheel. And notice that a few of them are a little out of place for some strange reason. So you can actually adjust those, you know, just pull them out a little bit. I'm doing it with the, you know, it should work. This should work just fine. I think I must have had it a little bit not touching or touching too much, something like that. So I'm just, now we don't, it doesn't matter later. You know, we're just going to be filling these with color. So just make it look good. So I'm adjusting. It doesn't have to be absolutely perfect. My main objective in this is to get you to understand that the colors are actually make a lot of sense in terms of their recipes. And you'll see how the colors, how you add color to other color in order to get the next color. And it's very interesting. It gives you a really good sense of how the color works to put in these recipes. So anyway, this is a CMY wheel. I haven't started yet. But so then you can actually go to the swatches, and with the CMY wheel, I'm going to have cyan at the top. So cyan, and cyan, I'm going to the recipes now. I'm looking at my recipe sheet that I can't have up at exactly the same time, but I'm going to go to color, and I'm going to say, what's the color that I need to put in there? And so I look at my sheet. Oh. I can't do it. I tried to, I don't have, yeah. Okay, so I look at my sheet and it says 100, 0, 0, 0. So I literally just put the C at 100 and then these go all the way to 0. You can either do it with the sliders or type into the spaces. Now notice that it didn't change. It's probably changing the stroke. So I actually am gonna have no stroke on these afterwards, but I want it's the fill that I want to be that. So I'm going to say 100 and everything else is 0. The next color is blue. So I select this one and I really want no stroke. So I go over to the stroke and say none. And I'm going to make this one blue. So select it. And the next recipe is 150, 0, 0, 0. So I go to the sliders and I say 100 and then 50 And you can just, I think it's easier actually to just type it in. And then the others are 0, 0. And the next one says blue violet. It's 100, 100, 0, 0. So 100, 100, and then 0, 0. The next one is violet, and it's 50, 100, 0, 0. So, oh, well, that's stupid. I'm going to type it in. 50, 100, and that's violet. Whoops. The next one is magenta, 0, 100, 0, 0. So 0, tab, 100, 0, 0. The weirdest thing is that the computer actually starts doing it for you. And I'm not sure if that's why, or the reason why that, maybe because I've done it before so many times. I've done this demo quite a few times, but it actually starts putting in the colors for me. That's very strange. It's kind of like AI, you know, some kind of artificial intelligence. So, but I don't know why that's happening. So you'll see, it'll jump to the numbers in a second. 0. And then I go in here, 100. And if you do tab, you can just put in there. So that is, this one is supposed to be red. Huh. 0, 150. This should be 50. Okay. And the next one, I'm just going to go all the way around. You can watch me do this. Is orange. So 0, 100, 100. 0, tab, 100, tab, 100, and tab, 0. Yellow, orange, 0, 50, 100, 0. So I'm just going to change this one, 50. Shoot, it went back. 0, 50, 100, 0. Okay, yellow and totally yellow. So this one is just going to be yellow at 100 and everything else at 0. This one, yellow, green. So 50, 0, 100, 0. See, it did it by itself. I don't know why that is. Green, 100, 0. We'll see if it does it again.
Joan, how do you fill them again? I'm not able to fill mine.
You simply click on it and make sure that your fill box is on top of the stroke in your tools.
Mm-hmm.
And then go to the color.
Yeah.
And start moving the sliders. Did it work? Is anybody else trying this while I'm doing it?
Joan,
Yes.
I'm having trouble doing it, the rotate thing. I haven't been able to go past that step. I don't know why.
Yeah, me too. It's not rotating.
Did you make your circle? The
Yeah.
big circle?
Mm-hmm.
Did you make your little circle?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, select the little
Are
circle.
you guys in Essential Classic?
Yeah, I'm in essential.
Yeah.
Okay,
I
so
just,
select
I
the
just did it
little,
manually.
select the little circle.
Okay,
Mhm.
that's it.
Okay, leave it selected, but not the big circle selected.
No, the small one.
Just the small one, but it's just touching the big one, right?
It's touching, yeah.
Barely touching.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, then go to the rotate tool, which is a tool that looks like it's going counterclockwise with a little arrow. Double click on that.
Okay.
That brings up the rotate options. Wait, before you do anything in the rotate options, click in the middle, option click in the middle of the circle, the big circle. Option click in the middle of the big circle.
Oh, in the middle of the big circle.
So wait.
I think I double clicked actually. And that brought up the options.
Okay, now I get it.
Now 360 over 12. And do not push OK. Click copy. And you should get a copy of the little circle. Alex, did you?
Yeah, it works.
Oh, okay. And then you go duplicate, because what you did was an action. And on any computer, if you want to do an action over again, just do Control D or Command D. That's a shortcut. That's a, you know, keyboard shortcut. Okay, I'm going to fill the last one. The reason I wanted to do all this is I want to show you how to draw the triadic relationships also. Cyan, green. So 100, 0, 50. Okay, 100. Whoops, that's, what did I do? Here, I'm filling this. I already did 100, 0, and I think this one's supposed to be 50. I'm actually looking on my sheet because I know what they're supposed to look like, but I don't remember the exact recipes every time. So 0, 50, and then 0. Yeah. So there you go. There's your CMY color wheel. Now, I want you to just draw the relationships. Don't try to rotate anything. I tried that last night. I just went to the pen tool and I said, just went right to the top and I just drew lines. So one, and then I went to, these are all the primaries. So I went from cyan to yellow to magenta and then back to close it. But you don't want to fill on this. So go to the red slash through the fill box. And then I made those relationships 3 points. And then I did, now you have to make sure that this isn't filled because otherwise all those lines won't show up. So bring the stroke on top of the fill. The stroke box in the toolbar should be on top when you're using lines, and you should make sure that the fill, there's no fill. And then go to, just do all the others. So the way I did it was I just went one to the left of every single one that I did before. So I went blank, and then I went left down here, and then I went left over here, and then I went back to my original. Now I don't want these to have a 3-point stroke. I thought it looked good to have them because I want the primary ones to show up more. I thought that looked like a good design. So I just did those and I kept going. So I go, you know, with the pen tool, go back to the pen tool. It makes straight lines. So I just went boink, and then down here, and then up here, just one always further than the one I went before. And then I did one more. So every time, if you hold Command or Control, you can click away to deselect what you already did, so you keep connecting to your red triangle. So I go here, and then here, and then here, and then back to the one that I started from. Where was it? Oh, I'm getting confused. Whoops. Okay, so this one, I don't want filled, so I have to say no fill. I don't know why it filled. Whoops. No fill. So you're dealing with fill and stroke. Remember in Illustrator in the first project? So fill and stroke. So you just want a 1-point stroke on these triangles. These will show us, I want you to understand, because we're going to be doing this for the final project, what a triadic relationship is. All of these colors have triadic relationships, meaning that there's 3 together. Now, across the color wheel each time, when you do your scales, your swatches, I'm going to show you how to do them in a minute after we take a break. Because this is more difficult for me, I think, than being in a classroom with you, because I just go straight. But anyway, so cyan to right across the color wheel, cyan to this red-orange color, whatever they call it. They call it orange. Cyan to orange are complementaries. Yellow-green to this color, violet, is complementaries. Anything that's straight across the color wheel is a complementary relationship. Colors that are next to each other, right next to each other, are called analogous or adjacent relationships. And those are the ones we're going to be doing swatch scales of. So we aren't going to be, yes.
Where do we get the information on the color values?
Have you explored .ed yet? I put this whole project up in .ed.
I downloaded some files, but I didn't see any. I guess I'll look more. Are they not on the Word documents?
It's the RGB color wheel PDF.
Oh, it's on the PDF.
She basically did it, and then you have the CMYK color wheel. It has all the numbers under the name.
Go to .ed. I think I put all 6 files there that you can use as models. You see them?
Yeah, I found it. Thank you.
So you can use those. I mean, I basically want you to do this over again because you're going to be interested in how you notice how these numbers change. You know, it's very interesting because you're taking away 50% and adding 50%, and it makes this color wheel. It's numbers. It's only numbers. It's very cool. I mean, it really teaches you what the colors are, you know, what they're composed of. So when you do this, you'll notice. Now, the hard part is putting in the numbers, and that did take me a little while because I made the cyan a little bit bigger to make it look nice. So all you do is go to the type tool, and you just literally click, and then you'll see a lorem ipsum box come up. That's Greeking, and you can type in cyan. And then you just select it and make it whatever size you want it to be. Now, my default typeface is Myrid Pro. Maybe, you know, that's kind of an elegant, it's a sans serif typeface. Arial is nice. I gave you a list of, I can send it to you. I think I put it up in the former project, which is a few weeks ago, so you can go look for that on .ed. So I made these bigger. I made them 18 point. So I made the primaries 18 point, and then I just like literally went with my cursor and I said return, and then I typed in the recipe 100 0 0 0. So I put 100 dash 0 dash 0 dash 0. And when you go to the black selection tool, you can move that, you can select that, or it automatically selects it when you go to the black, and you can move it into place using those guides. Now I drew new guides because I wanted the others to kind of line up. So I went through the middle of the box and I drew some new guides because we were making a book and I wanted it to look really, really nice. Other classes, by the way, make books that are so time consuming about their color projects that feel lucky you are just doing this neatly for me, because there's teachers who make them print out these really elaborate books of this. And you don't really need one at the bottom there. I'm going to put it back. So you're going to put in all the recipes. And then I just went to the top, and I have to move this over with the hand tool so that you can see it. And I pulled down another guide here at 1. And then I pulled one across at 1. Wow, that's excellent. And yeah, so down, I locked my guides. So if they don't move anymore, you have to go to view, and then you have to unlock them if you need them to move. So you have to unlock them under view, because now I want to move some of them. And I just pulled it down to 1 so that I had this crosshair. And on every page, I'm going to put the title right here of the whole thing. So this is CMY wheel. So I go to the type tool, and I just say CMY wheel or color wheel. And I'm making everything 18 points. You could make this bigger. And I also, I think, made it bold. No, I didn't. So I want to. So I'm going to go to the cursor. Oh, I always do that. I hate that. I try to pull the cursor across and it makes an object. So you have to make sure that the cursor is in your type that you already made. And I have 18 points, and I want this to be bold because I'm making it look pretty. And yeah, so go down to bold. And then I made the primaries bold also and bigger. So the other ones I made, I don't know, I think 14 points and not bold. So every single primary I made bigger and bolder so that it looked nice. And then I put in, yeah, so that was it. That's the color wheel. And every single color, the other color wheel, so every color wheel took me about, 45 minutes. So it's gonna take you a while to do this. You could do these today, and then I will, I don't know. I guess I better show you the scales also, and then this will be your homework to get this done for next week. You have lots of time. You're all prisoners in your apartments, right? I don't know.
I want
except
all of them for next week.
And Brian, they're in other countries. Maybe it's not quite so locked down there. If you're in California, you can hardly go out, right?
Yeah.
Feels like
You won't be able to tell me you were too busy.
Busy dying, man.
I would say panicking.
That's the thing. I'm spending a lot of time panicking.
So do you want all the scales due next week? Yeah.
I think if you could do this for next week, we could actually start the next project. I can have you go outside, at least around your own house, and do texture photos. And we could show them to each other and pick ones that are good. I don't know how we're going to do that. There's 20. I usually have you take 20. So I need, I want you to narrow it down to like 10 good ones, and maybe I can meet with each of you separately and pick the ones that you'll use for your project. I'm not sure how I'm going to manage that with 18 people, but we'll do it. So the next project, I'll have to lecture on the next project, and I need to teach you Photoshop, painting in Photoshop. So yeah, I must say that when I show you the scales, we're going to take a little break for 5 or 10 minutes now, just 5 minutes maybe, so everybody can get up and stretch. But I'm going to show you how to do the scales next. So it's only 2 color wheels, the color value correlation chart, and scales. The color value correlation chart shows these colors, CMY. I want you to use these CMY colors for everything except your RGB wheel, which you'll use the RGB on .ed. You'll go into .ed and you'll bring up that RGB wheel. It has different recipes. What's interesting is there are 2 things you have to do the RGB wheel. You have to change your document color mode. So you go into File, and I don't have these instructions. I tried to put them at the bottom of your project sheet, which is also up on .ed, but you might forget to look there. So, but the RGB one, you go to File, and you change your document color mode. So in Illustrator, unlike Photoshop, which has many modes, if you remember, I'll be showing you, but in Photoshop, the modes, there's like 6 different modes in, you know, under image mode in Photoshop. There's like 6 different modes. But in Illustrator, there's only 2, CMYK and RGB. So for your art, and I'm going to be able to tell when I grade this what your what you did, because it looks so different when you have a document in RGB. The colors are just really much more kind of fluorescent and bright. So I want you to see that. That's why I'm having you do RGB. And so you're going to, for the RGB wheel, you're going to change your document color mode to RGB. And then you're going to go to the sliders and you're going to change in the drop down menu, you're going to go and change it to RGB. So you only have 3 entry fields, not 4. This is CMY. And with RGB, you're only going to see 3. And you'll also be mixing the colors and see the colors mix right in front of you in RGB. It's a really good exercise. So I'm not actually going to type in each one of these. I just did this last night also. So I went around and you can see how I did it because I put them up on .ed. So you'll have these in front of you when you try to do it yourself. I would suggest if you have a printer at home, why don't you just print out the sheet so you can hold it while you do this? Or you could maybe bring it up on your phone. I have not tried to go into .ed on my phone. So, I mean, I would imagine that you can do that, but it might be a little difficult. I think the easiest way would be to print out the thing, download and print out the sheets that I put up on .ed and then just copy. But if you have 2 computers at home, you could also bring up .ed on one of the computers and then work on your laptop copying or creating this. Any other questions? I think, yeah, I'm definitely going to get that longer cord so I can sit on the sofa and do this, or I'll try to move to the table during break maybe, but I don't want to disrange anything or disturb anything now that I have everything working here. So next, I'm going to show you how to do the value scales. And the value scales are a little bit trickier than doing the complementary or analogous scales because it needs 2 steps. But you'll see me do the gray value in one fell swoop, and you can do all your scales the way that I do the gray value, and then you'll see me do the other value scales the way I just told you. You have to do it in 2 steps. So do you want to take a 5 or 10 minute break now just to give me a stretch? Yeah. So be back. It's 3:35. Be back. I can see Eric doing your thumbs up. So let me see if I can see anybody else. Yeah, there you are. And Alex. Okay, so come back at, I'll just leave my window open and, you know, you're all in touch with each other. There's also chat, but I don't know that you really want to use this during class since you're trying to watch what I do. So you should really just be concentrating on the class. But I would advise you staying in touch with each other during this time, of course, because we are trying to continue instruction. So, you know, being in touch with some members of your class is probably a pretty good idea. I know the photographers are really in touch. Maybe the fine art people could also stay in touch with each other. Mm-hmm. That might be a really good idea right now. So, you know, one thing is I just want to say everybody really wants this to be over. You know, If you think students are impatient, you can't imagine what how our teachers reacted to this. It was like, are you kidding? I got to do this online. You know, I just couldn't. It was like, I just spent 2 days thinking, I don't know if I can do that. But anyway, obviously we can. So we're all in the same boat. Anyway, okay. So yeah, I think I'm going to sue the coronavirus. Anyway. Okay, so in 10 minutes, come back. Thank you.
It's really cool seeing all your spaces.
Hi, Aaron.
Hi, Joan.
So where are you?
I am at I'm at my folks' house in
Oh, that's
Huntington
good.
Beach.
I was trying to convince my son to go to his father's house because I was so worried about him. He's right in the middle of Manhattan.
Manhattan in New York?
Yeah,
Oh, wow.
yeah. And so he has a really small apartment. His girlfriend and he are just holed up with each other. They're not going out at all. They're just getting food delivered because
Yeah.
people said that was the safest way.
Hmm.
It's so weird, but he lives in a building that has a little gym. So they go up there to exercise. I think
Yeah.
they've gone on some walks. They're scared, you know. I mean, he's sort of a health freak. And he's a little, you know, so
Yeah.
I'm more freaked out. I think I'm a little more freaked out than he is.
Yeah, me and my girlfriend were holed up, and my parents were just like, you guys should just come down here, and they have a guest house, so we moved into the guest house.
Nice.
Yeah.
That's really, really good.
Danny from Oberlin.
Why?
I was friends with him, but he had the coronavirus.
Well, lots of students started telling me that, you know, they were going home, which for art center,
This guy from Oberlin, my friend Dan, had it. He had the coronavirus.
Has or has?
He had it. He recovered from it.
That's good.
Yeah. We forgot to take the trash out last night.
What?
We forgot to take the trash out last night.
I think somebody wants to come back. This is kind of a weird aspect of this, is that when
It's not our job every time.
you have to ask to come back, but I don't think they should have to ask.
You have it set up as it's a private meeting, so they have to ask to come back.
So should I, if somebody's used this program a lot, I set it up at the beginning, is that when I have to change that?
Yeah.
What?
Saul who's telling me that?
Yes.
Can you mute Anna? I could hear her.
So at the beginning, I said it should set it up as a what kind of meeting?
Not.
Oh, what? Who's there?
Yeah, at the beginning of the meeting, you should set them up.
My
Because that's
Euphoria?
when you set the parameters.
The cast of Euphoria?
Hold on. Everybody's talking. Oh, well. Saul, you can tell me afterwards. Stay after this a little bit and you can tell me. Or if everybody's quiet for a second, Saul, I should set it up as a public meeting or what?
Yeah, it's a public meeting, so people can freely come in and out. Because if it's a private meeting, only you, the director of it, can allow people to come in and out.
Okay. Is there options at the very beginning when I set up the meeting?
Yes.
I didn't see those. Are you sure that Art Center wouldn't be giving it to me automatically?
Are you
That
getting
way?
them from Art Center?
I set up the meeting from inside on .ed. So I don't know, I have to look. But I mean, I've never ever done this before, so I learned this all in the last, week. So when I set up a meeting, I go to your .ed site and I go through this process where you have to ask for it's called something like exterior tool, something like that. And then it gives you a drop-down menu of different tools that they put in, kind of like plugins to the .ed site. So you have to do that. And then it says, what do you want to do within this tool? And you say meeting. And then it brings up the Zoom meeting interface. So I'll look for it there. I think it's at the beginning because I've been looking to change that and I can't change it right now. I think I have to do that at the beginning.
Yeah, it would be at the beginning.
Oh, well, I'm gonna have a whole lot of new skills after this. Okay, so is everybody back, do you think? These people are still muted. There's still some people that are not, doesn't look like they're back. Let's see.
Meg's back.
Saul is trying from Pierce to me. Saul is trying to get into the chat.
I'm in the chat.
Oh, good. Okay, I don't have to do anything. Good, because I don't know how to do that. I'm sure I'm gonna know by the end of this, but. It's interesting, you can mute yourselves and I can't unmute you. That's a control that you have at your end. Yeah, so here comes some more people. So participants, let's see. What does this mean? That's me. So I'm going to start again, okay? So I'm going to make a lot of people aren't back. Here's. Alex is back.
I'm back. I'm just having a problem with Zoom right now, so I'm exiting out of the app. My phone can't take so much video. It's starting to malfunction.
I'm sorry.
No, it's fine. Well, that's something that might be important to anyone that's considering using mobile.
Yeah. My own computer has the fan on, and I'm just going to let it do this, but it gets really warm. So I'm just letting it have the fan on, which at first had me super worried, but I don't know, maybe it has to do that. I did find out a command that can turn the fan off. I'm not sure I should do that though if it's so warm. Anyway, because these sessions where I'm like on for 4 hours of video, I don't know if it likes that.
Yeah, you should leave it on because it's taking a lot of power to process everything. So if you turn it off, it might mess up your computer.
Really?
Yeah, you want your computer as cool as possible. People that do 3D modeling and have to render, that takes a lot of power. So this is kind of sort of similar, or just a lot more computing.
Well, we're gonna just do this for another half hour, and then I'm gonna let you go and try to start this. But I'm gonna keep my window open so that you can come back and get into the meeting. I'll try to find where to change this to public, but I don't think I can do it now that I've started the meeting already. But next time I'm gonna try to have this be a public, so that you can go in and out. You know, I don't have to let you back in. That was a problem this morning. Somebody never got back in, unfortunately. So anyway, yeah. So I'm back to Illustrator here. And I just want to say, you can be creative with this. You don't all have to copy exactly what I did. And you don't have to use, you know, perfectly straight typefaces. I just want you to realize that there's a difference between, like, you know, braggadocio, which I actually like, but it's a kind of really funky, crazy typeface. And you could do maybe titles in that, or, but, you know, and other more minimal, elegant typefaces. So anyway, I just kept it really simple. Helvetica, Arial, all that sort of thing. I have the default on my computer is Myra Pro, but that would be okay too, I guess. I didn't do much with the other relationships here because we're going to be doing them. The reason I had you put in these triadic relationships is that we're not doing any scales that show that. The other things we're doing show the relationships that are on the color wheel. So for instance, I'm going to imitate right now this one. I'm going to redo this one for you people. And so the first one that I'm going to do will be the grayscale, the simple value scale from white to black. These are called tints. When there's light mixed with white values, they're called tints, and when you add black, they're called shades. So I guess you could call the light parts of the grayscale tints and the darker ones shades, but really on the grayscale, it's just a grayscale. But when you get into these things, there really are tints and shades because we really are adding white to the color and black to the color on this end. Okay, so I'm going to show you how to do that. So making a new document, file new again. And I'm going to create the same one I did before, 11 inches wide, landscape orientation, 8.5 high, and CMYK color. And if you want to title this, you could call it value scales. What did I call it? I think, let's see. I called it gray value scale and chromatic value. So you could call it gray value and chromatic value. Scales, just like learning an instrument. So say create. And again, I put in some guides to help me eventually lay this thing out. So you have to sort of go through the whole beginning again. So you have to say view rulers, show rulers. And I'm going to pull over to 5.5 again. And pull down to 4.25. And now I'm going to make a value scale. So all I did was start with the rectangle tool, and I made a, I think I made these scales. You can resize in a minute, but I tried to make them about 8 inches long. So if I know that I'm gonna make them within this, I guess I should draw some guides just to help me do that. So this is 11 inches. So I'll go to 2 inches on this side, and I'll go from 11 to 2, I don't know. That's about what I did. You can do whatever you want, but you have to get the scales in here. So I just made a box. And I guess I made the box about, let's see, 1/2 inch. Would that be 1/2 inch times 11 would be 5.5. Okay, so I guess that would work. Is this 1/2 inch too? Yeah. So there's my first box. And then I made that white for the value scale. I made the first one white with a fill of white. So you see down here white. And then I held Option, go to the black selection tool, and I just copied it. So Option copy, so you should still have that other one, but the reason that it's not showing up is because it's there, but it doesn't have a stroke on it. So I'm going to make it white, but you should put a stroke on it just so you can see it. So that's why I left the stroke on it in the ones that are the samples on .ed. So I copied it over to the other side. Actually, it's still there. And yeah, so this one I made black. I want to be black. And move it into, oh boy, the guide is moving again. I forgot to lock the guides. That's not good. Okay, so I forgot to lock the guides, so I can move it into place, but I better lock my guides because well, you know, okay. So anyway, move it into place, and you should actually see it being the smart guides, but if you don't have the smart guides up, I think somebody wants to get in here again. Maybe they'll call. Okay, so anyway, so there's my boxes. Now with Illustrator, whenever you select 2 objects at the same time, you'll see an align command. So you select them by either drawing a marquee around them or clicking them both at the same time. So you can do either way. You can draw a marquee, but to select 2 things at the same time, or you can multiple click them. So you can click one, hold Shift, and click the other, and that does a multiple selection. So you have both and you want to align them. Here's the align commands. So I'm going to align horizontal center, okay? So that aligned them. Now to do a blend, all you do is you go to the blend tool, which is right below the gradient or right next to the eyedropper.
Motherfucking. All right.
And double click, whoops, the blend tool, and it should bring up the blend options, okay? So go to specified steps, and you want to make however, you can do however many steps. You can actually do this with any kind of object, but it might crash your computer. And you can try blending things ad infinitum. You can blend anything and see what happens. But anyway, we're just blending a white box and a black box. But you have to decide how many steps. Now, the value scale that I'm having you do, the gray value scale, has 9 steps between the first one and the second. All the scales that you're going to do are going to be 11 steps. So put in 9, because 9 between the first and the second. And then you don't have to do anything here, but you have to, this command here, it says smooth color, specified distance. So you want specified steps. You might want to take a screenshot or, you know, use your phone and photo my screen right now, because the blend options is important to do this. And we're going to do a bunch of scales. So then I say, okay, and this is a weird thing. You don't even have to have them selected. You can have them, I'm going to deselect the whole thing. You don't even have them, and just click on one and click on the other. And you get a blend. So that would be great if it would do it. But the thing with the value scales is it doesn't want to do it when you've, when you have a color that you put in the middle. When you actually change one of them, you have to do it in 2 steps. So for instance, I'm going to do the next one I'm going to do is CMY. So I can copy this down and use it, or I can use part of it at least as a model. So I'm going to hold Option, and I'm going to copy this down to see if I can use it as a model. And I'm going to deselect, I'm going to make it, I'm going to expand it. So Object, Expand, and you can do this any way you want. Another way to do it would be just to make a new box. But what I was going to do is get rid of some of these boxes. I'm just using it to make a copy because I don't want to have to redo all the aligning I was doing. So I'm going to say Object, Expand. And that basically changes this from being a group thing to being individual objects. And you just say expand to all these things, say okay, and it loses it being an interactive group. And then go Object, Ungroup. And now they're just individual boxes. They're not a blend anymore. It's not an interactive blend. And what I'm going to do is select one of them. Now, you have to decide where the C goes, where the Y goes on these blends you made, and re-blend them. So I'm actually going to copy this 4 times. And then each time you're going to have to expand and ungroup to redo the blends with colors in them. So it's actually, just click on that and expand and ungroup every time. But now this one here is just, now they're just rectangles. It's not a blend anymore, an interactive blend. And for instance, the next one I'm going to do is going to be the CMY scale, the C scale, the cyan scale. So I go to my cyan, and you can look it up what the color is. You can go back to your color wheel and look it up. So cyan is 100% cyan. So you decide, well, maybe cyan is actually kind of a light color. So you hopefully have already done, I'm having you do the value scales after you do the color wheels and after you do the color value correlation chart. So look on your color value correlation chart, and you'll see that cyan is actually a pretty light color. It's at step 4. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4. I'm going to put it on this one. So I'm going to say 100% cyan on that color. Zoop, all the way to 100. So that's, don't have any black in it. Take out the black. So just 100% cyan. Now you can blend this and that, and you should have 2 tints of the cyan right in here. So I'm going to go to my blend tool that I just showed you. It's the tool that has a little black square going to a white circle. And you go to the first one, and oh, now you have to bring up the options because you're going to get too many steps. So double click on the tool, and it'll come up with specified steps again. And then you count 1, 2. I need white and cyan. I have to have 2 steps between. So I go to 2. I say 2. Say okay. And then just click on the first one and click on the cyan. And notice that it gave you those, but it grouped them. This is now an interactive group. So the problem is, watch what happens when I go between this and this. I'm going to say I want 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6 steps between the cyan and the black. So you would think you could just click on this and then click on this, but this is still a group. So it does something really strange. So I'm going to go to the blend tool, and I'm going to say 6. And it has to say specified steps. And you say, okay, whoops, I didn't want it to do that. I'm going to click away. It still doesn't work though. I click, there's going to be 6 steps. That's what I want. And I click on the end one, and then I click on the black. See, it screwed it up. It doesn't really know what to do because it's trying to blend this whole group with that. So Command Z, undo, which is what's so great about digital. And you have to expand this group. So expand, go to object, expand. This is only for these scales because you're putting in a color right in the middle. Say okay, and then ungroup that. So go to ungroup, and now watch. Just to check, go back to the blend tool, which is the one right next to the eyedropper or under the eyedropper if you have it in a single file, the tools. And it's now put in 6 because I counted the steps between the blue and the black. And say boink and boink, and you get the shades. Does that make sense? This is the only one that you have to do in 2 steps. All the other ones, the analogous and the complementary, you can just, as long as you pick the right colors at either end, you can just go for the first one and then the second one. Put in 9 steps between step 1 and step 11, put in 9, and all you have to do is click, and you'll have the steps. Then, as before, I'm going to pull down 1 inch here, and I have, and move this over to 1 inch. So I have 2 guides, and I'm going to put in the title right here. So I'm just going to click and say grayscale, and then chromatic value scales. And the reason that they're called chromatic value is because they're the value scale with a color in the right place. So
Joan,
yes.
I have a question. How do you select? I'm trying to put the cyan in, but when I try to select that square, it selects all of the whole row.
Right. So select your blend. Select your blend. It actually is grouped. The moment you do a blend, the whole thing's grouped. So go up to object. When you have that selected, your blend, when you have it selected, go up to object, expand, and then do object ungroup. And when you do object expand, it's going to bring up a dialog box that shows a whole lot of things. Just say okay.
Okay.
So you have to expand and group it.
Yeah, I get it.
And then they become individual objects where you can select and end one and do another blend of the shades.
Okay, great.
So believe it or not, I don't have my other class paint all of these, but I have them paint the grayscale and then 1 chromatic value scale. So they do have to paint quite a few of these. But that's the illustration design one. So with you, I'm just having you do it digitally because you can see the color theory by doing this. And I think you're going to be working digitally a lot more than, of course, with paint. Well, you're fine art, Alex, for instance. You might work with paint too, but you can, as long as you know how to work with gouache already, you can do the same thing in paint.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, it is.
Now, interestingly enough, another thing is that we are making these from scratch. But if you go into an Illustrator, for instance, if you go into the color guide, and I think there's something similar in Photoshop, but I mostly use the color guide in Illustrator. And watch this, in color guide, the things that we're trying to do manually right now, they have all this. So right in the first row, I have cyan. Look what they have. They have tints and shades. So I want you to do it yourself because you're creating it now. This is a 10-step scale. I have you do an 11 because it's pretty interesting to see some of the other ones where the midpoint is. Not maybe these as much because we're putting a color. the interesting thing is like yellow has to go right. You can, if you try it, after you do this whole thing, go up to select it and go up to edit colors. Edit colors. Under edit, go to edit colors. You have to have what you want selected, what you want to see in grayscale, and say convert to grayscale. And you'll see this whole thing. And all the color ones should look just like the grayscale. So you will know, you can check yourself. You will know if you put the color in the right place. Because it won't look, you'll notice that it's not like the first grayscale. If you put, for instance, if you put this blue over here, all of these colors will be too light, right? You have to put the cyan, the magenta, and the yellow in the right place. And what you're going to realize, and a lot of people don't realize this, is that magenta, for instance, is much darker than cyan. And there's colors like red is a much darker color than people think it is. Like a lot of people think red is very, very bright so that it's lighter, but it's actually quite a dark color. I think you're going to find out, and I'm not going to do it for you. I want you to try this. You will notice on the example that I put online on .ed that the magenta color is much further towards black than you would think, than one would think. It's a very dark color. Magenta is actually quite dark, and red is quite dark. So do you want to work on this for a while? I'll keep my window open and see how far you get in the next hour or two. I'm going to keep my window open so you can work and you can come back into the meeting, and you can share your screens with me also. So as you work, you could go in, you could come back and share your screen with me.
Joan, can you remind us how do you check that they're the right grayscale again? How do you see the whole document in grayscale?
Yeah, you might want to copy this down because, it is a really, okay. So, hold on a second. Hi, Colin. Fine, I'm online with my whole class right now. So, hi, everyone. Say hi, Colin. Anyway.
Hi, Colin.
Okay, hold on. Say hi, Colin. Colin, say
Hey,
hi.
Colin.
Hey, Colin.
They're all saying hello to you.
I heard, Mom. I heard.
Okay, should I call you back a little later?
Yeah, feel free to call me back. I've got a work call at 8. But then I'll be free, and I'll probably go to bed around 9:30, 10.
And you two are okay still?
Yeah, we're fine.
Okay, I'm so happy to hear that. Bye.
Yeah, we're doing all right. Bye, love you. Bye.
Anyway, yeah, I told him he has to call me every day. Anyway, and he's like, really? But anyway, so, okay, let me show you. So anyway, you have to select it. So don't say it's not working. You have to select what you want to put in grayscale. So you select it, and then you go to edit colors. And then it'll give you the option to do all these things. But for instance, what's weird about Illustrator is when you convert it to grayscale, it doesn't stay in grayscale. I mean, there's no grayscale mode in Illustrator. So whatever you do, I think you might be able to leave it like this, but it's going to go back to CMYK. It's going to be in CMYK when you print it because there is no grayscale mode in Illustrator, if that makes sense. So when you print it, it might look like these grays are, violet or something, a little different because the mode of the whole document, there's only 2 real document modes in Illustrator, CMY and RGB. In Photoshop, when I teach you Photoshop next week, there's a lot more modes. There's grayscale, HS, there's all sorts of, we'll look at them. grayscale, CMY, RGB. Some of you who know Photoshop know the modes better than me, but there's about 6. So when I don't want to see it in grayscale, I just want you to see that, for instance, when I'll go back, whoops, I don't know if I can. Nope, I have to do the command again. But it should, when I put it, this should look like that. So actually, I think I might have put the cyan a little bit, I don't know. I mean, does it look pretty similar? Maybe I put the cyan, this is a little light, wouldn't you say? Anyway, it's pretty similar. So this is my cyan right here, right? Didn't I put it at step 4? 1, 2, 3, 4. Oh, I guess it's this one. I don't know, I put it at one of these. So cyan, if you put it at the wrong spot, you're gonna see this be wrong. You're not gonna see it be the right, it's not gonna look like the grayscale. It's gonna be like too light on one side or too dark. That makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
So why don't you start trying to make these, and I'll keep the window open. You can diminish this for a minute and just work in Illustrator, and you can come back on. I'll let you back in. Obviously, I have to make the settings public next time so that you can go in and out, but I can let you in and out. I have another box down here that lets me do that if you leave the meeting by mistake. So you could do any one of these that you want. The assignment sheet is on .ed. The one that I think is going to be kind of challenging for you is the color value correlation chart, because this is these you're going to have to adjust. And if you put these in grayscale, they should actually look like the grayscale. You're going to make this 9-step grayscale yourselves. And you have to make it with enough space, because you're going to make little circles that are full of the color, or however you do it. You can make it your own design. You can make your own design. So, so then you fill these with color, and you can use the colors from the color wheel if you want. You can try to do it with the CMY colors that you made on the color wheel. It doesn't totally work. I think that's what I did here. And when I actually put these into grayscale, they don't look exactly like the right value. So you have to play with it. For instance, let me show you. If I put this into grayscale and I say edit, colors, and convert to grayscale, can you all see this? It's like this one is right. It's about like this one's better. So you have to remember what these were. Maybe, so you got to kind of remember, no, you have to remember what they look like now. So maybe you take a screenshot of it now, okay, and adjust for it. So I'm going to take a screenshot. To do that, you hold Command, on a Mac, Command Shift 4. And then you can take a little screenshot of it. On a PC, I think it's Command, and then there's a little button that says Screenshot or something like that. I forget exactly what it says up on the upper right. Sitlali. She's not there. Okay. Well, anyway, if you're on a PC, you can tell me how to do that. But
I'm here. I'm just having problems with my computer.
Oh.
So I'm trying to figure stuff out.
Okay. Anyway, but notice, look here. This is too light, right? It doesn't look like this. So right. You could do any one of these that you want. The site. Okay, so somebody's playing the recording back. Anyway, here, this is too dark. So this one has to be lighter. So what I'm going to do, I just took a screenshot. I'm going to go backwards, Command Z, and get the colors back. because I put it into grayscale temporarily. Then I'm going to go over here and find my screenshot. Well, it's there. It's just that all these things are open and I can't see it. There it is. So now can you see what I did? So I took a screenshot just so I could compare. And I was just the color guide is not something we have to have up. I just wanted to show it to you. But anyway, so here's what the screenshot I took and here's what my colors are. So now I'm going to adjust. And I can adjust in the mixer. So I go to the white selection tool, which enables me to select these shapes individually. The white selection tool has more power than the black one, and I don't know if I group these or not, but the white one can select within a group. So I noticed that this is the best one right here. So my light green is about right in terms of its value. But this green, this is actually pretty right too, but it could be a tiny bit darker, but I think this is really pretty good, the green. So this one starts to be maybe, this is okay too. The one that starts to be a little light is the blue. So this one, it's 1, 2, 3, 4 down. 1, 2, 3, 4, the blue. So I select that blue. How can I make it darker? This might be why they call it CMYK. My colleague Mara claims you have to put a little black in this, but I put a little bit of blue in it, or maybe I did put a little black in. You kind of have to cheat. So it's already, maybe a little magenta even would make it a little bit darker. So I'm going to make it a little bit darker by adding magenta. You have to kind of cheat. And I don't think you need to put black really, but she thinks you do. So to make this the right value, you have to cheat a little bit and add a little bit of magenta. I'm just showing you this, if you're interested. This one also, if you go back to the screenshot that I took when I turned it into grayscale, this one's too light. And that is the blue violet. So I'm going to add a little bit of black and I'm going to cheat. I think that's why I call it, and then a little bit more magenta to make it darker. Whoops, that looks too dark. So now I've changed the colors a little, even though I'm working with the CMY color wheel. To make the value scale work perfectly, I have to modify it slightly. Over here, this one's too dark. The red orange is too dark. So I'm going to go here and I'm going to take out a little bit of the magenta. So it becomes a little bit lighter, more yellow orange. That's just to make it look right in terms of its value. And so forth. Now, if I do the thing that I did before, it should be closer to what this value scale is. So there, and I go edit colors, edit colors, and go to convert to grayscale. And it looks a little bit better. So that's the only thing is, I mean, if you really want it to be perfect, I don't care if it is or not. Personally, I just want you to understand that these values progress from light to dark, and these values progress from light to dark, and it basically is correlated to the value scale. I don't care if it's perfect or not. I'm not going to be grading you on that. You know what I'm saying? It's just not perfect. And I think that's why they call it CMYK. I think you have to use the K. But you can read up on that. Any other questions? This is important to understand because how you use color, I think value is the most important, one of the most important ways in which color works. Remember we were talking about that in terms of achieving focal area, how we use value to achieve area of focus. I said that if you make things lighter, they become more, they get our attention more most of the time. Well, that, or if you have things that contrast, how are you going to know if it contrasts or not if you don't understand how color works in terms of value? You can always make colors lighter or darker by adding white or by adding black. That's perfectly fine. You can go to a tint or a shade of every color to make it lighter or darker. But you can also use, you have to understand color in its just sort of essential nature. And these colors are much lighter than these colors. I mean, I actually was teaching sort of a beginning graphic design course for a while, and people would put black type on violet background. And they didn't understand that you can't read that. I mean, they think of violet as being a really rich color. So they like the idea of like black on purple or violet. And I said, you can't read it. And they're like, why? Because the values are too similar. Same thing with yellow and white. Dwell magazine in its first issues, I don't know if you know that magazine, it's a high design, it's a design magazine. Somebody went and put the name Dwell yellow on a white background. And I was just like, they're gonna get fired for that. I mean, you couldn't read it. Yeah. So it is now 4:30. How about if I give you like an hour to do this and you can come back in, and if you want, you can just tell me how it went. You can pop up and ask me questions as you start to do this. Because if I give you time right now, you can ask me questions as you have problems. And then, so you're making 6 files in Illustrator. Go to .ed and get the sheet, the project sheet. Anna, do you have a question?
I do. How do you do the blend thing again? I did it and then I, by accident, undid it, and now I don't know how to do it again.
You simply go to the blend. You set up whatever you want to blend, right?
Yeah. Do I select both of the boxes first?
You don't even need to. That's what's so weird. I mean,
Okay.
everywhere else in Illustrator, you need to select because the computer doesn't know what you want to do things to. But for some strange reason, watch this. I'm going to go to the pencil tool, which is beneath that stupid paper tool.
Mm-hmm.
Now I'm going to go to the blend tool and double click to bring up the options. And I'm going to say 6, right? Because that's what I was just on. It gives me the thing that I just left off. So
Okay.
specify step 6.
6. All right.
And now I don't have to have either of them selected. I'm holding command to deselect. These are deselected.
Mm-hmm.
Go to the blend tool. I have the blend tool. Click. and click.
Click each of them.
Yeah.
Oh, amazing. Oh, well, that's cool. Cool.
You don't
Thank
need
you.
to have them selected, which is odd, you know? It's the one tool where you don't have to select. It just knows, you just click and it seems to know which shape you want to blend to the other shape.
Oh, yeah, that's where I was getting it wrong. And then how do you make it so that it's not one object, it's separate rectangles again?
Yeah, you better write this down. You just go object,
Oh,
expand.
okay.
And expand is a command that makes everything into editable objects.
Okay.
So you expand it, say, okay, the dialog box comes up. Notice how it now has all these selectable points, tons of them, and everything became individual, but it's still grouped. When it's a blend, it's still grouped for some reason. So you have to go object, ungroup. But now you do have to have it selected. So object, ungroup. That's what you have to do just with that. With the other ones, you don't have to ungroup. I'll never know whether they're grouped or not when I look at them. With your other scales, the complementary scales and the analogous scales, you don't have to ungroup it because you're not doing anything to it afterwards. It's only the value scales because you're putting a color right in the middle. So you have to get it so that you can select one of the boxes in the middle, and you have to expand and ungroup the whole thing to do that.
Okay. Okay, thank you.